So, I'm outside for a second because kids are inside really quick eating lunch. But I'm going to have a two-part message. This is one by itself. And then I'm going to come on later and give the other message that God gave me yesterday. So, God gave me this revelation yesterday while I was at work. And I was literally standing there just yelling to the sky like, okay, God, I hear you. Okay, God, I hear you. And I'm going to be in the book of Esther. And me and Esther, we don't have the greatest relationship. She doesn't, relate to me. But yesterday, God was speaking so clearly through her. And I was sitting there, and I was at work, and I was on break, and I was reading my Bible. And I'm talking about, it just went to plan what's about to happen. I even wrote my friend, I was like, girl, it's about to go down. It's about to go down. So God has been speaking to me about Psalms 23. God, how he prepares a table in the presence of your enemies. And you have to have enemies in order to have that table prepared. Because, God can prepare a table for you, right? But what's the joy of it if you don't see the people that betrayed you, sitting on the outside, the people that doubted you, the people that said you weren't nothing, watching you eat at God's table? Because God is always preparing things for his children. He's a good father. He wants to serve you. He wants to show people his good child. He wants to show that your faithfulness and obedience pays off. I am outside. I am sorry. We're trying something new, y'all. I might need to go inside. Hold on. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'm outside. So, y'all, if the wind blows, the wind is going to knock everything down. I'm going to have to go inside in a minute. But get this message. So, God just needs, the people to see that he's a good father. So, anyway, he was speaking to me on that. And I was like, okay, God, I hear you. I hear you. Psalm 23. So, I made a message last night. I put it on my Facebook. And I said, about friends and family, like, you're going to be in the nosebleed seats when God gets done. Because you slept on, God's children. Don't act like you're supporting God's children, when everything is all said and done. So I got a couple of hate speeches saying, oh, I see your true colors. Whoops, oops. You're showing your true colors. I'm like, what did I do? All I did was tell that God is going to prepare a table in the presence of your enemies. Right? And I'm like, why are y'all so angry that I stated what God said? People were really upset. Like, we see your true colors. Now I'm like, true colors? That's weird because I always laugh all day long. That's weird. But anyway, God is like, look who's talking. They're going to be at the gates trying to get in. They're going to be at the gates trying to get in. He's like, the devil doesn't like the truth. And God has been speaking to me about truth seeking for the last couple of days. He was like, the truth is going to set some people free. The truth is going to set some captives free. So I said, okay. So I'm in the book of Esther, and I get to the 5th chapter, and I begin to holler so loud. I begin to laugh, gut-wrenching laughter, because God is saying, I'm going to make it all make sense for you. There's a reason why I have you in Psalms 23 on that specific verse. There's a reason why I'm talking to you about the truth and how the truth should set you free. There's a reason for all of these things. It's all going to make sense. So he tells me to go to Esther, and honestly, I wasn't enthused about the book of Esther when he told me to go to Esther, because I don't like the book of Esther. It's good, but I don't like it. I don't correlate with it, right? So I begin to get there. I'm going to read a little bit because I'm going to let y'all sit with this today. So Esther, if you don't know the story about Esther, Esther was an orphan. Her uncle, took care of her, and she became queen. Queen Vashti, she was arrogant. She was beautiful, but she was arrogant, and she didn't want to do what the king said. So he sent out for all these women. Esther got a part of them. Esther became queen. She's humble. She's beautiful. She's young. She's vivacious, and she's very humble. So she goes to the king's court. Well, before that, it's a word going around about, there's a word going around about I think they were Jews getting killed. Haman, he couldn't stand Mordecai, which was her uncle. So Haman was like, I want to kill all the Jews. So he got the king to declare a decree. Hold on. Y'all hear that dog? She's in a cage. Okay, I'm live. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, it was a decree going around to kill her people. There was a thing going around that declared her people to be killed. So her and Mordecai come up with this thing where, like, okay, we're gonna go on a fast for 3 days, and we're gonna let God do what he do, right? So now she has a yeah, so now she has to go before the king, right? So she did something that was unheard of. She went into the king's court, she fell down, and she said, if it pleases the king. So we're entering on this, right? So it said, now it happened on the third day, chapter 5. Now that it happened on the third day that Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the king's palace across the king's house, while the king sat at the royal throne in his royal house facing the entrance of the house. So it was that the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court that found favor in his sight. And the king held out the golden scepter with his hand, and Esther went near and touched the top of the scepter. So Esther entered into it. She found favor. And that's the word God told me. He was like finding favor. And he's been speaking to me since Monday about finding favor. So she found favor with the king. She touched the royal scepter. Verse 3. And then the king said to her, what do you wish, Queen Esther? What is your request? It shall be given to you, up to half of the kingdom. So some people are about to find favor with the very person that is in power, that can be empowered to elevate them to the next level or to bring down those enemies. Let me keep going. So it said, 4. So Esther answered, if it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I have prepared for them. I'm gonna read it again because I think y'all it's going past y'all head. 3. It says 5, Esther 5:4. So Esther answered, if it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I have prepared for him. God prepares a table in the presence of your enemies. Esther won favor. The king asked her, what can I do for you? What can I do? She said, if it pleases the king, can you and Haman come to the banquet that I have prepared for you? See, Esther had crazy faith. She had went on a 3-day fast. But the thing that I get is she said that I have prepared. Prepared is past tense, meaning she's already set the table. It's already been set in motion. The table is already being prepared. Haman, who was killing her people, Haman, who persecuted her uncle to no avail, Haman, her enemy, she had prepared the table. She went to the king already with the table prepared. So she said, if it pleases the king that you and Haman, her enemy, come to the banquet that I have prepared for you. Not I'm preparing, but I have prepared for you. God is saying it is already done. The table is already set. The food is already on the menu. It is already set in motion. So when God was talking to me last night and he was like, oh, your family, he made me put quotation marks because family is going to stick together. These people that I'm talking about are not your families. And he had me put friends in quotation marks as well because friends aren't going to hurt you, aren't going to harm you. They're going to always be there for you. And he had me put in quotations because that's not what they are. They're only there when you have some kind of limelight upon you. They don't know who you are, sort of like when you win the lottery. And all of a sudden you got cousins and fifth cousins and sixth cousins that you ain't never heard of, but all of a sudden they there. Nah, y'all be on the outside too. That's why I said the nosebleed seats. So God is saying that he is preparing a table before you in the presence of your enemies. Esther had prepared the table. Esther had fasted for the 3 days. Esther had done the work. Faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead. She done the faith. She did the work. And now she's like, if I found favor, can you and Haman come to the banquet that I have prepared for you? Let me keep going. 5. Then the king said, bring Haman. See, she was sitting talking to the king. Haman was minding his business, not even knowing what was going on. Because those monitoring spirits ain't nothing when God flips the table on them. See, they think that they watching you, but who's watching them? See, Haman was watching her uncle and all the other Jews. And he was like, I'm going to persecute them. I'm going to kill them. But Esther was watching him. Who's watching your enemies while your enemies is watching you? Who has prepared a table for your enemies to sit back and look at you eat at while they watching you? While they planning your family's death? While they planning your children's death? While they planning your death? Who's watching those monitoring spirits, baby? The king said, go bring Haman. Your enemies finna come sit, baby. Your enemies finna come sit, baby. When I tell you they getting ready to come sit, who's watching those monitoring spirits while they watching you? Okay, let me keep going. 5. Then the king said, bring Haman quickly. My God. Suddenly. Go bring Haman quickly, that he may do as Esther has said. My God, under your feet. So the king and Haman went to the banquet that Esther had prepared. My God. Come on, let me calm down, God, because I don't think that y'all understanding what's about to happen. I don't think that y'all understand how real it's about to get out here. It's about to get really real out here. So 6. At the banquet of the wine, the king said to Esther, "What is your petition? It shall be granted to you. What is your request? Up to half of the kingdom, it shall be done." Here's her second time. The king asking her again, because when you find favor with God, you will then start finding favor with man. Understand that. She went on her fast. She got favor with the king. She got favor with God. Favor is just in the atmosphere. It's just the spirit of favor just falling everywhere. The glory is everywhere. So she can get whatever she wants. You can have whatever you like. Yeah, that's what's about to be your portion. You are literally about to have whatever you desire. Whatever you ask for is about to be yours. But Esther is wise. So when you make these choices, when the choice comes to you, make sure you're very wise when you get ready. Because some people are like, oh, $1 million. Okay, you can get it, but then you still gonna have the enemy on you. Esther was very strategic and very planful and wise when she did this. She was very meticulous when she did this. She was like, okay, 7. Then Esther answered the king and said, "My petition and my request is this." 8. If I have found favor in the sight of the king, and it pleases the king to grant my petition in the fullness of my request, then let the king and Haman come to the banquet, which I will prepare for them. And tomorrow I will do as the king has said. That I will prepare. So he's sitting at the table. He's just thinking, she very smart. She very wise. She didn't do nothing. She just let the king see that, she can be cordial. She can dine with the enemy. She's good. She ain't got no beef with him. I prepared a banquet for you and your servant. God, I'm just sitting here, she's sitting there. So she won favor again because she's so poised and so pretty and so, positioned. Like she's good. So he's asking her again. So the king asking her again, "Hey Esther, if it pleases you, like, what do you want? You can have up to half of the kingdom." And she said, "King, I would just like for you and Haman to come back, and I will prepare a table for y'all again. I will. The choice is about to be yours. You are about to have some choices. I need you to be very wise with these choices that you're about to make, because it's going to change the whole trajectory of your life. You can get revenge, or you can let the king get revenge. You can prepare great food. You can have all the evidence, have the emails, the text messages. You can have all of these things, but use it wisely. She's going to let the king see Haman for who he is. God gives us sometimes enough rope to hang yourself. Sometimes it's just enough. So she's sitting there like, yeah, y'all like this food, it's good. Yeah, what else you need? Oh, king, I just want to prepare another table for you and Haman, tomorrow, if you don't mind coming. She was very smart. She was very wise. This is what you have to do for your enemies, because your enemies can't stand you. And they're literally waiting for you to slip. I responded to the lady yesterday that said, "Whoops, I see your true colors," when I wrote about the enemies and eating in the presence of them. She's like, "Oop, I see." She said, "Whoops, I see your true colors." And normally I don't respond. So I said, no, I do see yours. You're the accuser of the brethren. You're the father of lies. You were waiting on me to fail in your own eyes. Even though all day I give out goodness for myself every day, and I smile and I uplift everybody, you were waiting on me to fail in your own eyes. That is what the enemies are doing. They're waiting on you to fail. They want to say that you're not this good person. They want to have evidence against you, because the devil is the accuser of the brethren. So he's waiting on that one time for you to so-called slip up so he can come in for the kill. Because the devil says you can't be that nice. You can't be that loving. That can't be you. When God says love above all else, that is how you're going to get into the kingdom. And if anybody has ever had an encounter with you, that's what they're going to tell you. I'm nice until I'm not. And if I'm not, that's your problem. So listen, Esther said, come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow and I will prepare a table for you and Haman. So the king is sitting here like, oh, okay, cool. Haman, you hear that? She finna make us some more food. She over here feeding us good. She a good wife. I made a good queen. Look at her. She finna feed both of us. So the king The king ain't thinking nothing about it because that's his wife. You know, she minding her business. She a good wife. She's showing off a good thing because Vashti, the queen before her, she didn't care about none of that. She was arrogant. She was beautiful, but she was very arrogant, and she didn't want nothing to do with the king. So here we go. 9. It says, so Haman went out that day joyful with a great heart and a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai, her uncle, when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, that he did not stand or tremble before him, he was filled with indignation against Mordecai. So after this dinner, Haman is on his way out. He sees Esther's uncle at the gate. And he all of a sudden gets enraged because Mordecai is not bowing at his feet. He's not, being one of his yes men. He can't stand Mordecai. Your enemies can't stand you so bad it's going to be their own demise. Everything that your enemies are plotting against you is going to be to their own demise. Listen to me and listen to me clearly. They're persecuting you and they don't know when to stop. And I think about Esther and I think about Mordecai and Haman, but then I immediately go to David and Saul and how Saul could not stand David until it was his own death. Your enemies can't stand you. They're letting the hatred in them run them to their grave. They're going to run into their own grave trying to come up against God's people. God said, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm, and that every tongue rises against them shall fall and be condemned. That is what is happening. Your enemies cannot stand you, so much so that they're persecuting you to their own demise. You keep being loving. You keep being kind. You keep showing love and watch what God is getting ready to do. They're going to fall in their own pit that they're digging for you. Mordecai didn't do anything to him. You just left a good banquet. You just left him the king and the queen. And all of a sudden you walked out there and you let that nasty spirit of envy, hate, and malice jump in you when you saw a person. You let that person's skin get under you. You let your skin crawl when you see this person. 10. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home and sent and called for his friends and his wife. Then Haman told them of this great riches and multitude of the children, and everything in which the king had promoted him to, and how he had advanced him above all the officials. Moreover, Haman said, besides, Queen Esther had invited no one but me and the king to come banquet with him. She had prepared, and tomorrow I am going again to dine with her and the king. So he's sitting here with his wife, and he just bragging. You know, your enemies get to bragging when they think that they really it. They thinking that, they too smooth. They a smooth criminal. They think that they really getting away with murder. You know how they laughing at you when you getting fired, when they sleeping with your husband, when they sleeping with your wife, when they over there plotting y'all demise, when they getting you evicted, when they telling CPS on you, when they doing all of these things about you. They laughing all the way to the bank because all they see in their own head is their own self and vanity. So they're thinking, yeah, it was just me, not them. Yep, I seen her uncle at the gate. I seen Mordecai at the gate. Yeah, he ain't humble himself, but don't worry, I got something for him. 12. 13. Yet all the avails me nothing so long as I see Mordecai the Jew standing at the king's gate. So then his wife and all his friends said to him, let a gallows be made 50 cubits high in the morning, suggest to the king that Mordecai be hanged on it. Then go merrily with the king to the banquet. And this pleased Haman. So Haman's wife and his friends were telling him what he should do about Mordecai. See, it takes a team of people to come up against one of God's anointed. He couldn't stand him, but he didn't know what to do with him. So his little team, and I love to say the devil and his little cackling hens, they got together and they was like, oh, you know what? Let's build a gallows. And the gallows is where they hang people. So they built this big old ramp 50 cubits high, and they had the hangman ready. They was like, we'll get the king and we'll go hang him, and then we'll go down with the king and queen after we hang him, not knowing that the very person that you're about to hang is related to the queen. They don't know who you are. See, you are royalty. Royalty runs through your DNA. You have a kingdom's anointing on you. You are a kingdom's kid. And they don't know who they're touching. Your enemies don't know who they're touching when they come up against you. They don't know who they're coming up against when they choose to come up against you. My God, my God. They don't know who you are. Had they had known who you are, they would have left you alone. But baby, they don't know. But if they don't know, now they know. Let me keep going. So it says that night, chapter 6, that night the king could not sleep. Someone was commanded to bring the king a book of records of the chronicles, and they therefore read before the king. And it was found and written that Mordecai, her uncle, had told of the Bigtama, I can't say that, and Tarish, which were 2 kings of the Enochs and the doorkeepers who had sought to lay hands on the king. Then the king said, what honor or dignity has been bestowed upon Mordecai for this? And the king's servants attended him, said, nothing has been done for him. So the king said, who is in the king's court? Now Haman had just entered the outer courts of the king's palace and suggested the king hang Mordecai. So that morning, the king woke up because he couldn't sleep, and he said, hey, he remembered. Oh my God, while I'm talking. Hallelujah. Listen. The word is look again. Look again. Look again. Come on, guys. Speak, Holy Spirit. Do what only you can do. You're about to be remembered for the good that you have done. For everything good that you have done, you are about to be remembered. God is about to put you on the heart of somebody that's going to remember you. And I'm going to tell you what's about to happen to you. See, as Haman woke up that morning happy because he's about to tell the king about Mordecai and how they get ready to hang him from the gallows, the king had a revelation that night about Mordecai. God will put you on somebody's heart. Whoever is persecuting you is coming in with a plan. But God has put you on somebody's heart. And since God has put you on somebody's heart, favor is about to find you. That night, the king could not sleep, so much so that he had to go get the book of Chronicles read to him about what's going on. That night, the king had said, where's Mordecai? What can we do? Mordecai saved my life. Mordecai did this for me. What can we do? What has been done? They said, oh, nothing was done to Mordecai. You know nothing. Nothing. He says, what can we do? Who's in the king court? Here comes the enemy. Here comes the enemy. My God. Here comes the enemy with a plot and a plan to end your life. But God said no. My God. Catch this. My God. Here comes the enemy laughing all the way to the king's court, bringing you in there because him and his wife done plotted up what they gonna do to you. But all while you were sleeping, God was working. All while you were sleeping, God was working. He couldn't even sleep. God said, the person that's about to bless you can't even sleep until they bless you. He says, who's in the king's court? Oh, they said, oh, Haman. Haman walking in here with a plan. Haman's the man with the master plan. Okay, Haman. Boom. So he entered in to suggest that he be hanged from the gallows. 6:5. The king's servant said to him, Haman is there, standing in court. And the king said, let him come in. Here he comes, not knowing that the king had already been told by God, we about to bless the very person that you think about hanging. The very people that's thinking about hanging you, getting ready to bless you. My God. The very people that want your head, getting ready to bless you. The very people that's talking about you, trying to persecute you, they're about to bless you. Your enemies are about to bless you. Let me let you in on this. 6:6. Haman came in, and the king asked him, what shall be done for the very man whom the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought in his heart, whom could the king delight and honor more than me? The arrogance of your enemies is about to be their downfall. Haman is like, surely the king can't be talking to nobody else but me. They sitting up there and they so arrogant. They so pompous. They thinking it's them. So they like, ooh, let me soup this up real quick. Let me soup this up real quick because the king about to bless me real good. I'm about to get a good blessing from the king. Ooh, the king honored me. I'm up here with Queen Esther and him eating. I'm finna come tonight and do it. I just need the king to do it for me right quick. I need the king to hang Mordecai from these gallows. But right now he talking about, I want this. Let me tell you how greedy your enemies is, right? So Haman answered the king. He said, for this man whom the king delights honor, let a royal robe be bought which the king has worn, and a horse which the king has ridden, which has a royal crest placed on his head. Then let this robe and this horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that he may array the man who the kings delight to honor. Then parade on a horseback throughout the city square and proclaim him, thus shall it be done to the man who the king delights to honor. He's saying all this good stuff. He's saying parade him, give him one of your good robes, put a king's crest on him, walk him through the gallows and show everybody this is the king's favorite gallows. Do everything. So he's saying, I need you to show the world that you love me, king, because I need the honor to be bestowed on my head, king. This is what I need you to do for me. Yeah, all right. They don't even know that they talking about you. They around here thinking it's them whole time. God says, I need you to do this for my children. 10. Then the king said to Haman, hurry, take the robe and the horse as you have suggested and do so for Mordecai. My God, my God. My God, my God. Your enemies is getting ready to bless you. Your enemies is getting ready to bless you. See, they were so greedy and so ornery that they thought that it was about them. Whole time, God is saying, I need you to go do this for my children. Everything that you just suggested, the horse, the crest, the riding around, all of that is for my children. All of that is for my good and faithful. All of that is for my kids to be remembered. Everything that your enemies is suggesting is for you. See, they thought that they was about to plan your death, but God says, no, my kids will live and not die. My kids will be redeemed. My kids will be remembered. My kids will be honored. I am about to place a crown of honor on my kids' heads. I don't care who's plotted your death, baby. I don't care who's plotted your death. You should live and not die. And your enemies, like I said last night, and I don't care who got a problem with whoops, who look at her colors, baby, because mine is anointed and mine is scriptural and mine is factual. Your enemies is getting ready to bless you, baby. And I'm going to say that with my God-fearing chest. Your enemies is getting ready to bless you, baby. Your enemies is getting ready to bless you. And I don't care who don't like what. They getting ready to bless you. Yeah, I said it. Judge this character. Your enemies is getting ready to bless you. Your enemies is getting ready to bless you. Everything that they plotted against is about to be on their own head. Because I'm going to tell you Haman's fate in 1 second. So Haman took the robe. 11. So Haman took the robe and the king's horse and arrayed Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city square. They had to walk. The very man that he was talking about last night. The very man that him and his wife and the friends plotted death last night. He had to get the horse, get the crest, put Mordecai up on a horse, up on the crest, and parade Mordecai around. They got to parade you around, baby. They paraded him around and led him through the city on a horseback square and proclaimed. They got to come out their mouth. They got to come out their mouth because confessions come from the mouth. They got to proclaim who you are. They got to say who you are. They proclaimed him before. Thus shall it be done that the man who the kings delight and honor. Afterwards, Mordecai went back to the king's gate. But Haman hurried to his house in mourning with his head covered. They got to have their heads tucked between their tail. They're about to look real sad, honey. They're about to look real sad. When God get done shaming them, because they going to have to be shamed just how they did you. Everything they did to you, they going to have to come back. They going to have to come back, baby. And out of their tongue, they're going to have some confessions. The king had him parade the very man that he could not stand around and proclaim out of his mouth, this is who the king loves. They're about to say, this is God's child who God loves. This is God's faithful servant who God loves. This is God's faithful servant who God honors. This is God's faithful servant who God gives the glory. They're about to come out of their mouths because the enemy thought they had you, but God said no. When Haman told his wife this and all his friends everything that happened, his wise men and his wife said to him, if Mordecai was before whom had been brought has failed its Jewish descent, you will not prevail against him, but surely fall before him. So I'm about to go over to 7. So in 7 it says, so the king and Haman went to dine with Queen Esther. Let me break the God. Okay, God, I ain't gonna get beside myself. Let me slow down. So after all of that, he went to his wife. He had his little head down. He was mourning. He was grieved. He was embarrassed. He had to eat his own words as he projected out who Mordecai was. Because the enemy has to know who you are. And they're going to have to say with their own mouth. Every tongue must confess. Every tongue must confess. Every tongue must confess. Let me say it one more time, God. Every tongue must confess. 7:2. On the second day at the banquet of wine, the king said again to Esther, the king said to Esther, what is your petition, Queen Esther? It shall be granted. And what is your request? Up to half of the kingdom, and it should be done. Then Queen Esther answered and said, if I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it pleases the king, let my life be given at my petition, and my people for my request. for we have been sold, my people and I, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated. Had we been just as male and female servants, I would have held my tongue, although the enemy could never compensate for the king's loss. So the king answered and said to Queen Esther, who is he and where is he who would dare presume in his heart to do such a thing? So Esther is pleading the life for herself because she's Jew and her people. See, Haman had put a decree out to kill her and her people. So she is saying, King, with humbleness, I come to you. And if it pleases you, King, can you save my life and my people's lives? See, King, had you had only sold us as slaves, I wouldn't have said anything. But someone is persecuting and killing my people. And I fear that they're going to kill me too. So the king is like, who would do such a thing? Who would dare touch you? Who would dare touch my woman? Who would dare touch my people? God is saying, who would dare put their hands on my anointed? Who would dare put their hands on my chosen? Who would dare put their hands on my kids? God is saying, who would dare do such a thing? Who would dare do it? You are kind. You're feeding us. You're so humble. You're so beautiful. You're so honored. Like, who would dare? Who would dare do it? And Haman sitting over there just eating the food like, I don't know who that is. Oh, they finna get it. Oh, they finna really get it. 6. And Esther said, the adversary and the enemy is the wicked Haman. My God. The adversary and the evil person is Haman. You get to call your enemies by name. You're about to call your enemies by name. See, you prepare a table in the presence of your enemies. It doesn't say they don't get to eat at the table unless you invite them, because the table is yours. Esther invited her enemy to dine at the table. She was a very wise woman. So you can have the nosebleed seats for your enemies back there, or you can call your enemies to eat at the table and watch God have his way. She was sitting there because she knew she was about to call her enemies out right in the very presence of somebody who had all power to do as he pleased with that very person that's been hurting her, that's been persecuting. She is sitting in the presence of somebody very powerful and very wise. And she says, the very person who does these things, the very wicked and evil and malicious person, is no other than Haman. So Haman was terrified before the king and queen. Then the king arose in his wrath from the banquet of wine and went into the palace garden. But Haman stood before Queen Esther, pleading for his life. They're about to be on their hands and knees, baby. They're about to be on their hands and knees. God is saying, you had no mercy when you was persecuting my kids. What do you think I'm about to do now? What do you think I'm about to do now, enemies? Don't you run and hide now. Don't you bleed now. When you was out here killing all Jews, when you was out here persecuting babies, when you was out here firing people, when you was out here sleeping with somebody's husband, when you was out here calling CPS, when you was out here trying to get people fired, what do you think I'm about to do now? I'm about to call you by name and let it fall where it may. Vengeance is the Lord's. You're about to call them out by name and let God do whatever he may do. Whatever he may do. Vengeance is the Lord's. Vengeance is the Lord's. Don't you dare take it in. You just show what kind of good hostess you can be. What kind of good host you can be at that table. You cooked up some good food. You had wine, cheese. You had the good food in there cooking. I'm from the South. You had some greens, some hog mog up in there. You had some good cornbread. You had it made with the sugar up in it, the good kind of sticky cornbread, baby. And they was up in there eating good. And you topped them off with wine. And you fed your enemies real good. And now he's saying, who are your enemies? And you looking your enemies right in the face, because I need you to look your enemies in the face. I need you to look the very people that came to steal, kill, and destroy you in the face. And I need you to call them out by name. No other than the adversary, the wicked Haman. And I need you to call your enemies out by name. Whatever the job is, whatever the relationship is, whatever the sneaky link is, whatever it is. I need you to call it out by name. And I need you to do it with a king's anointing, because she was a queen. So she sat with great posture at that table, because I need you to know who you are when you get ready to call these enemies out by name. When the king, he was pleading for his life, and he saw the evil was determined against him by the king. When the king returned from the palace garden to the place of the banquet of wine, Haman had fallen was. Then the king said, will he also assault the queen while I am in the house? As the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Now Hebrod, one of the king's eunuch, said to the king, look, let me tell you your enemy's fate. He said, look, my God. Let me go back to where I was. I'd have lost my spot. He said, look, the gallows, 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who spoke good of the king's behalf, is standing in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him on it. Remember the night before? Who built the gallows? Whose idea was it to hang from the gallows? Who prepared the gallows for their enemy? Only to be hung by the very gallows that they planned for their enemies. Your enemies are about to be hung from the same thing that they planned for you. The same death that your enemies prepared for you, they're about to have. They were so happy that night planning your death. They were so happy that night planning how they was getting ready to come up against you. They're about to hang. Everything that they plotted against you is about to be their portion. The same ditch that they dug for you is about to be their portion. You don't do nothing wrong. All I need for you to do is worship God and walk upright. That's all I need for you to do. Because God is about to come in and show them what happens when they plot your death. Hang him on it. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then the king's wrath subsided. God is about to do the very thing that the enemies planned for you. They're about to receive. You don't know who you are, and you don't know how favored you are, but you're about to find out. You're about to find out. God is not playing in this season. God is not playing about you in this season. Everything that the enemies wished upon you, they're about to succumb to. All the plots, all the ploys, everything that they're around here planning, they're about to fall into their own pit. You don't do nothing else but prepare that table. Prepare that table. You continue to be loving, kind, honored. You continue to be humble. You continue to live an upright life. And watch what God is about to do for the very people that can't stand you just because you speak love, honor, humility. They can't stand you, but they can't touch you. They can't stand you, but they can't touch you. I'm getting ready to get off. If this message was a blessing, my link is always in the bio. I'm gonna come back on later though, because I got another one for y'all. God ain't done yet. God ain't done yet. He been speaking. God been speaking. God is not playing. This ain't the hour to play with God's anointed. This ain't the time to play with God's anointed. Everything that they planned against you, everything that they prepared for you is about to be their own demise. God said in his word, touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm, and every tongue that rises up against them shall be condemned. Out of Haman's mouth, he had to profess who Mordecai was, and he had to parade him around. Out of his own mouth. They can't touch you. They can't touch you. I love you all. And get ready to prepare that table. Get ready to prepare that table. Everything that they plotted against you is going to be their portion. I love you all. Enjoy your day. I'll be back later. Love you guys.